I am Max Mathern, sitting here today to record an interview with Summer Awad, a former member of the board of SEAT, Sexual Empowerment and Awareness at Tennessee. Thank you for being here today, Summer.
Thank you for having me.
So Summer, to get us started, could you talk about how you first came to be aware of SEAT?
Yeah, so I was a member of the Haslam Scholars Program, and so as soon as I got to UT in the fall of my freshman year, I became Facebook friends with Brianna Rader, who was an upper class Haslam scholar, and she invited me to like her Facebook page for Sex Week at UT. But I was aware that they were wanting to spread sex education at UT, and I knew that my sex education had been less than helpful. And as I kind of liked more posts on the Facebook page and commented on things, Brianna approached me and said, "Will you apply to be on our executive board?"
So this would have been the very first year.
Yes, this was the first Sex Week.
Could you talk then about which groups in this first year seemed to be especially hostile to what SEAT and Sex Week were trying to do?
It was really just kind of something that the media was picking up because they could sensationalize it. And really, I mean, like the conservative media, like Fox News. And then from there, I think the state legislators realized that they could use this to get their constituents fired up. And so they adopted this platform of we're going to stop Sex Week at UT no matter what, and you should not have your taxpayer dollars going to this. So I think it was kind of from there, from the media to the legislators to alumni and parents. I mean, of course, there were students who were opposed to Sex Week, but I think they kind of just adopted the idea that, oh, it's stupid and we shouldn't go to it, not necessarily that it should not be allowed. I was definitely surprised, and it kind of just happened all at once. You know, we were going forward with our planning. We had everything planned, all these events for the first year. We were doing our advertising. We were really excited. It seemed like the student body was really excited. And then all of a sudden, this article comes out saying that we're bringing a lesbian bondage expert to UT with taxpayer dollars. And it just kind of came out of nowhere.
Was this the Fox News article?
Yeah, so it started as an article on campus reform, which is basically kind of a conservative watchdog agency for college campuses. And it was written by, I guess, a student on the campus reform website. And then Fox News picked up that article and basically just republished it as it was written. There was just so much inaccuracy in that article. I mean, Sinclair Sexsmith was the person that they were referring to. And they are, I guess you could call them a lesbian bondage expert, but they also, the talk that they were giving at UT was called Gender Theory 101. Mm-hmm. So it was nothing about lesbian bondage at all. It was talking about gender theory. I was surprised that they were bringing in something that this person did away from Sex Week and away from UT and bringing it into the conversation about what we were having at UT. And they also made up event names that were not even part of our programming. They said we were having an event called Queer as a Bug that did not even exist. So the first year, we kind of, like I said, they approached departments to donate funding. And that's, I think, probably where a good chunk of our funding came from. We also applied for grants like the Ready for the World grant, which is a $5,000 grant if you can prove that you're helping UT students be better global citizens. There were things like the student fees, but that's the student activity fee that students pay, and it goes towards all kinds of different organizations and programming. So we were getting this funding from a variety of sources, and we had about a $20,000 budget each year. Of course, the first year, they were concerned that it was taxpayer dollars, and so the university, the week before the first Sex Week happened in spring of 2013, they, at the last minute, pulled $11,000 worth of our funding because they said that that was taxpayer dollars. And that was our departmental funding. They basically said the departments were not allowed to pledge those amounts. We were able to raise all that money back in 36 hours on an Indiegogo campaign online. People were so outraged that this had happened that they were just donating their money. And so we were able to raise the money back and have Sex Week happen again. The following year, they targeted the student fee part of things. They did not think that students should have to pay this $19.46 fee, knowing that a portion of it would go to potentially controversial programming such as Sex Week. I think it was like 15 cents of that would potentially go to Sex Week. The Board of Trustees got together and figured out how they were going to reform it, and they eventually pressured UT into changing the process to where you had to opt in or opt out of letting your student fee go towards this programming. And even if you opt out, you still have to pay the money. It just goes somewhere else. So now before you register for classes every semester, it says, would you like to opt in or opt out to let your fee go towards potentially controversial programming? In future years, it was kind of clear that Chancellor Cheek and some of the other vice chancellors, they were privately and personally supportive of Sex Week, but they were not publicly supportive. So they would say, like, I understand that what you're trying to do, I understand that we need this on your campus, but can we change it this way so that it makes it more palatable to people on the outside? Do we have to call it Sex Week? Can we call it Sexual Health Awareness Week? You know, basically trying to police our language, use respectability politics. Basically, they wanted to take the pleasure components out of it. Then we'll be okay with it. I mean, there were some efforts on the parts of the administrators, I think, to understand it better. Vice Chancellor Carrilli attended our event on ethical feminist pornography by a feminist pornographer, Tristan Taramino. I was glad to see him there, but later when he did an interview, I forgot which news outlet it was, but he basically told them that he was uncomfortable sitting in the room. That did not help our image, and that did not help the public know that we were kind of unified in supporting the mission of Sex Week. Another thing was the Center for Health Education and Wellness. We had a lot of interaction with them. They're kind of the administrative arm, which does things like sexual assault prevention and awareness. We tried as best as we could to partner with them on things, but it was just clear that, I mean, you can tell by their name, Center for Health Education and Wellness, even though a big part of what they do is sexuality related, they don't even put sexuality in the name. They shy away from those issues. So we were trying to partner with them on things and trying to push them to do a little bit more and to be a little bit more clear about what their mission was and that they oppose sexual assault. It just was really frustrating, and it took a long time for them to even come around to doing anything productive. And when they did start doing things like posting a consent campaign and doing the Red Zone campaign in the fall to prevent sexual assault, they were basically just stealing ideas that we had already used. We had already done a poster campaign that same semester, which said things like, such and such does not mean yes. So it was really frustrating to see that, you know, people supported what we were doing, but they didn't necessarily want to be associated with us doing it. And then later they would go back and appropriate things that we had been doing. It's been a working relationship. I think all the executive board has always realized, the new co-chairs as they come in, they realize how important it is to have a relationship with administrators, and we don't want to alienate them completely, and we want to keep talking to them. I think we have really been kind of a nuisance to the administration, and they realize that they have to work with us reluctantly, even if they don't want to, because we're not going away.
We were talking a minute ago about the pressure to change the name of Sex Week. Why was it important to you not to yield on that point?
One of our main principles, I mean, our slogan of Sex Week is let's talk about it. Part of talking about it is being able to actually name the words that we're talking about. You know, a lot of sex educators emphasize, you know, using anatomically correct words, you know, not saying kind of euphemisms for things, but actually saying the words penis and vagina. It helps when you're reporting a sexual assault. And I think it's the same thing with just being able to say sex. You know, we're not just talking about sexual health in terms of sexually transmitted infections. We are also talking about pleasure, and we're talking about, you know, empowerment and how to get what you want out of a sexual relationship, how to articulate your identity and your beliefs and everything surrounding sex. And so it's not just about health. It's just important to be able to say the word sex, because that's such a big part of what we're trying to do, is start the conversation. And if we're shying away from that word, then I think we're going against everything that we believe in as an organization.
What do you see the future of the organization being?
I think we were all kind of afraid that, once the people who were really part of the controversy left, that people would not realize how important it was and not have the same kind of drive to keep it alive as we did. But I'm not really seeing that. The new co-chairs, I think, are just as dedicated and committed as the founders were. It's really great to see that they're always just kind of innovating and they're always coming up with new ideas that we would have never thought of. I'm really glad to see that they're continuing to do the Red Zone campaign, which is something that Nikki Hackenbrack and I started, which is in the fall, the first 6 weeks of someone's freshman year is when they're most likely to get sexually assaulted. And so we do sexual assault prevention workshops and events during that period. Those have gone above and beyond what I think we even envisioned. So I think it's just always going to be growing and changing, and especially to kind of change with the issues that students are most interested in talking about. Because we do try to do surveys after Sex Week to say, what are some issues that you would like to see at the next Sex Week. So I think it's really going to kind of evolve with the student body.
Do you foresee any particular obstacles to SEAT as it moves forward?
I think the brunt of it is kind of behind us, and that I think people are going to get tired of hearing about it and they're not going to care or oppose it as much, especially since the funding issue has been somewhat addressed. They don't really have any other angles to go from anymore, because at this point, if they try to shut it down, it becomes a free speech issue. And they could get sued, and I think they realize that they would lose. As far as challenges go, I think the climate on campus becoming more hostile to LGBT students is really a factor. There have been a lot of recent incidents of vandalism of the Pride Center, ripping down the rainbow flags. Apparently someone at a recent football game urinated near the Pride Center and then took down a flag. And the administration does not seem to be doing anything to respond to these incidents. There's video footage of the vandals, and it doesn't seem like they're doing as much as they could be doing to catch them. And they're just not really supportive of LGBT students. And so I think, especially in this political climate and with the Trump rhetoric and all of this stuff, the climate is becoming more hostile to marginalized students, which are some of the students that SEAT tries to lift up. And I think that might be a challenge for us going forward.
And as we record this, it is now the Thursday before Election Tuesday, 2016. So people listening to this will, once again, have a better sense of how the nationwide story plays out. Are there any aspects of the story that you feel have been overlooked, or anything that you would like people to know about SEAT and Sex Week?
I want people to know how just personally moving and affirming it has been to people, especially people of marginalized sexual identities.
Well, we thank you very much for your time today, Summer, and we thank you for your service to the University of Tennessee.
Thank you.